So our story is When the World Was New. My name is Emily Parsons and my student number is 1900740.
And I'm Evie Penza and my student number is 1900256. Good morning, class. Have you ever wondered what the world was like when it was new?
Hello there, little monkey. Come and sit with me and we'll talk all about it.
So tell me, what would have happened if there was no sun, moon, or even stars?
Oh, well, of course, little monkey. There would still be nothing.
So tell me, what would have happened if nobody had turned on the lights?
Well, that would be a disaster. It would still be dark.
So tell me then, what would have happened if nobody had pushed start?
Well, I hope you like the cold because there would be no seasons.
So tell me, what would have happened if nobody had turned off the taps?
Well, of course, little monkey, there would be no land.
So please tell me, what would have happened if no one had made any animals?
Oh dear, there would be no you and there would be no cute pets to cuddle.
So tell me, what if no one had made all of these boys and girls?
Now that would be a shame. There would be no one to marvel at the wonders of the world.
Isn't it just great how someone has made our world just right?
And there was even time to rest.
So here are advantages and disadvantages of storytelling. By telling a story in a class can spark conversation with the students. As you're both in a relaxed situation, it's more personal, you're one-on-one with the child. It can spark conversation, I can tell you things that they perhaps wouldn't tell you in other situations. Stories present new opportunities at children. At home, children may not be presented with these opportunities, but they're reading stories, it opens up their mind, gives them new chances. And it can pass time whilst also stimulating children's brains in a way that other things can't. Stories can do that. You can see that our references are quite dated, going back to 1980, but we use this because we thought it's still so relevant now. Everything we found is still so relevant, and we imagine that would continue to be like that. We struggle to find disadvantages, because we love stories. But children with special needs, such as ADHD, may struggle to concentrate for a long period of time. If you're in a big group and one child's not being singled out, they may struggle with that. And also if you run out of time, it's hard to just cut a story off, and that might cause disruption in the classroom if the child wants to listen to the story.
So we have chosen When the World Was New as we believe it has great links to religious education. Although it's not directly in the national curriculum, the document does state that all schools are required to teach religious education across all key stages, making it a compulsory requirement for all maintained schools. Additionally, the Education Act in 1996 states that, as a whole, the teaching should be in main Christian. So we've also said that this has cross-curricular links to history and science. So within science it can spark interest in the world around them, and history it can introduce Key Stage 1 pupils to early historical periods.
In the national curriculum for Year 1, which is who we would tell our story to, in the reading and comprehension, it states that listening to and discussing a range of poems, stories and non-fiction beyond the level at which they can read independently. And then it goes on to talk about traditional tales, which obviously creation story is a traditional tale, and from this we got the learning objective to understand and develop a traditional tale. And we thought from this story you could discuss what was happening, discuss what you would like to have happened to change the story. The children could change the story, and then we could get them to develop it by writing a different version of how perhaps they thought it could be written, or just a fun version, and then do role playing, get the children to act it out.
So within speaking and listening, it is crucial as it helps with intellectual and language development. Williams explains that it is at the heart of learning and occurs in all subjects across the curriculum. It also provides a foundation for reading and writing, whilst developing linguistic comprehension and linguistic and phonological awareness. In order to do this, children must be able to hear different sounds, which will help aid their reading progression. And throughout the national curriculum, you can see words such as listening and discussing frequently, which suggests that speaking and listening skills are needed in order to meet the high demands of the national curriculum.
Is standard English important? It is important that students actually copy what they hear, especially from a young age. They do. And it states in the national curriculum that the quality and variety of language that pupils hear and speak are vital for developing their vocabulary and grammar. So that obviously reflects in their own work as well as what you're doing. And it's found that children that don't speak standard English or understand it actually struggle and end up falling behind, as most test papers, most formal documents are obviously written in standard English.
So, factors which can affect speaking and listening include the home environment, which is often overlooked, as children from an early age need the opportunity for communication, which helps aid speaking and listening within schools. Without this, they don't get to hear different words and improve their vocabulary, as this would help process information, recollection and retention. So this can also be seen with children who have English as an additional language, as the language they hear within schools is different to that of home. But Teachers Standard 5 emphasises adapting your teaching to respond to the needs and strengths of all pupils. Additionally, health and disabilities can affect speaking and listening. For instance, children with learning difficulties may struggle to understand the concepts of sentence structure and meaning of words. And for children who are on the autistic spectrum, they often have restricted spoken language and do not understand that using languages at all can be used for conversation. Skinner trusts that language acquisition is a result of the environmental influence and that it can be developed through positive reinforcement. Vygotsky supports this as he believes interaction with others plays a significant role in language development. So this emphasises that encouraging speaking and listening can have positive effects on intellectual and language development. Children who are not exposed to this within the first 10 years of their lives may not be able to learn how to speak. On the contrary, this theory does face criticisms, as it doesn't suggest that if speaking and listening is a result of positive reinforcement and imitation, why children would create linguistic errors such as words saying swimmed.
Chomsky came up with the term language acquisition device, and he states that we're all born with the ability to use language and to talk, and it's a built-in device rather than something that we learn and that's put into us. And he states this because we're all born with a mouth, brain, tongue and voice box and lungs, so we should talk and we should use language rather than be taught it. And then Brunner actually goes against this. Although he acknowledges Chomsky's language acquisition device, he claims that the social and cultural effect on a child has such an impact on their language, and actually came up with scaffolding, saying that when you teach a child something, it should be revisited regularly in order for them to understand it. So that's going back over things like we would do with our story. Vygotsky would agree, saying that mixed groups work well, as the more developed children would have the less developed to work. So in a classroom it's good to mix them up, because the children that have accessed a higher level of standard English would actually help the lower ones as such. And Genie the Feral Child is a perfect example as to why it's vital that we help children with their language.
So, as mentioned, the case study of Genie helps us to understand how language development helps with speaking and listening. She was severely neglected as a child and received no stimulation or exposure to speech, and her father would hit her if she made any noise. During the rehabilitation process, she did make improvements to learning how to dress herself, but not with language development. So this offered essential evidence for the nature versus nurture argument, as nativists believe that language is based on instinct, whereas behaviour is to support environmental factors. Eric Lemberg explains that once the critical period has been reached, it is near impossible to gain full mastery of language development, which is essential for speaking and listening within schools. And there's our references.
Okay.